You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
Napping. Are you pro or are you con?
I love napping. It makes me so happy. And I'm, not to brag, so good at it.
I envy you.
Yeah, how is someone, like, how would you be bad at napping? What would be the...
I used to be bad at napping. I never used to nap at all. And then about, 7 years ago, I was just like working kind of a lot. And I was also writing a book at the time. And I was going out a lot as well. And
that just sounds like when I met you.
Well, this has been perpetually since we met, right?
Yeah, I was going to say the whole time
it's
since I've known you.
We've known each other, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years now, but
yeah.
like for sure. And I would say like the last, and I think the first 2 years I was so tired, but I was young enough that it was okay. And then I probably hit like 32, 33. And I was just like, oh, this starts to catch up with you. Napping really just like allowed me to continue living the lifestyle that I needed to live. And I had to train myself. I really had to train myself. Like I had to, I would just like reach a point in, like, say you're doing like research or whatever. And I would reach a point where my brain was literally so tired, I would fall asleep mid-word, but I would have enough presence of mind to set an alarm that was like between 15 and 20 minutes. And typically I could just bounce back after 15 or 20 minutes. Occasionally it would need to go longer, and I would like snooze it like 14 times or whatever. Sometimes those days got away from me. But I listen to my body as much as I can. And that's how I've sort of perfected napping.
But so when we used to go into the office in the before times, I don't know, at work, so everybody out there, we all work at CBC, and I guess, was it EAP or our union who set up a quiet room for everybody?
Yeah, the quiet room.
We have the quiet room. And
there's a quiet room
EAP
that's like,
thing, but yeah.
That's like all white with couches in it, down like tucked away in the depths of the building at CBC, where you can just go and have some quiet time. And so, Andrea, you should tell the story of what happened when you decided to take a nap in the quiet room.
Well, I used to nap in the quiet room like a fair little bit, actually. Like, particularly if we had worked all day, and this was a time when I was getting to work like really, really early because my husband was working really early, and then we would be recording the podcast at night at the library across the street, and I was just exhausted. So, started going down to the quiet room because they have these like two large couches, and you can like nap on either of them. And so this was like fine for the most part, and it was like safe enough that I felt like okay. But one time I remember very specifically, I was sleeping, I had my headphones on, I heard someone come in. It woke, like, it was loud enough that it woke me up. I heard someone come in. I felt someone come like sort of next to me, and the couches are sort of like connected kitty corner to each other, and I felt this person, but I was just like, I was so tired. I just didn't even care that there was another person in the room. Then I fell back to sleep, and then my alarm went off like, I don't know, 20 minutes later or whatever. And I woke up, and there was like a full other person sleeping next to me.
Did you know who they were?
Nope. I didn't. I wouldn't look at them like closely. I was just like, holy smokes, there's a full other human being sleeping next to me.
I could not handle that. That's too much.
That is so weird. For some reason, the quiet room feels like a place you go alone. It does, like, the whole idea of being in the quiet room is alone. And I get that that's a lot of pressure because it's only one room and there's a lot of us, but
yeah,
that seems so strange.
Well, this other person obviously was just like incredibly tired, and I just had to be like, yeah, respect. Like, I mean, you gotta nap, I suppose. They did at least turn their back to me. So whereas I was laying on my back, they were
it's like a hostel or something.
Yeah, exactly. They were like fetal towards the back of the couch. Anyway, I remember like just racing upstairs and like telling Andrea Gin that I was like, I woke up next to a stranger in the quiet room.
Oh man, yeah, I've never forgot. Because like
boy.
I can't fall asleep in public.
Oh boy. See, now I'm not a big napper, but I can fall asleep anywhere. Anywhere.
Yeah.
I think I talked about it on here on this podcast. I've fallen asleep in clubs with bands playing.
Oh, me too. Me too. I've
Like if I'm tired,
Yeah.
honestly, like sometimes and movie theaters, forget it. Like if it's late, I've slept through entire movies. Like I've seen 2 minutes of them and woke up at the end.
No, I can't. I do not allow myself to do that. Or I can't. Like I just don't feel I feel so uncomfortable if like the idea of falling asleep in public makes me feel so uncomfortable.
Well, I wasn't really thinking it's in public. I just have to sleep. I can't keep my eyes
Have
open.
you ever been in a theater where someone starts snoring really
Yes.
loudly?
Yes.
Yes. And Carlos has gone out of the theater. Like he's been like, hey, excuse me, to like wake the person up because it was so loud and disruptive. And the person, they had someone sitting with them. So that person elbowed them and the person woke up for like a few minutes. But then it was just like back to like hardcore snoring. And their person did not wake them up. So Carlos had to like go and get a manager, and the manager had to come in and like wake up the snorer and like why are you at this movie?
Yeah, just leave.
Oh my God, please.
Just leave.
I know. I don't know if I snored. I don't know. I hope not. No one ever
Oh, I
said
do
anything.
snore, so I'm sure I must.
No,
have
I know,
snored.
but I don't know
Yeah.
if I've snored in public. That would definitely be alarming to find out. But yeah, I fell asleep once, like talking to somebody. Which was, to be fair, I was drunk.
Fair.
It was very late, and it was like they were just talking, and the whole sound became just that lulling thing, and then I just did the, where you're trying really hard to keep your eyes open, and then I just gave up. So, and then they were like, "Did you just fall asleep while I was talking?" And I'm possibly. That's
For sure.
Yes.
Oh, I've 1,000% fallen asleep while people are talking. And one of the best sleeps of my whole life actually once was.
You can remember this.
I can because it happened. It's weird. And you guys actually sort of like saw me that later that day. So on my 40th birthday was 2 years ago, and I had accidentally. Classic me move. I thought I had booked us coming home a day earlier, not taking into account when flights leave Hawaii. And we had been in Hawaii for 2 weeks, and I thought that I had booked us home the day before. Turns out I booked us to arrive home at 6:30 in the morning in Vancouver, when I was also having a 40th birthday party that night that was like a big party. And
And had been gone for 2 weeks.
had been gone for 2 weeks. And so, monster that I am, recruited a bunch of friends who were coming to the party to help me do a bunch of stuff. But the last day in Hawaii, we had a full day in Hawaii, which is great. Like, that's amazing that you get a full day and then you get to fly home on a red eye. But we had to try and stay awake. And so we decided that our last day, we would take a sunset boat trip to see this beautiful rock sort of island structure. And I get really seasick, and motion sickness is kind of a factor in my life. And so we took these Dramamines, and but also had drinks. And so we get to the airport, and we get on the plane, and between the Dramamine, the day at sea, all the sun, and the alcohol, I was asleep before takeoff and did not wake up until we had fully landed in Vancouver and were already about to deplane.
Beautiful.
It was so amazing.
Honestly, that's the most beautiful story I've ever heard.
What a dream.
I'm very jealous.
Can I just say, when we got home, my neighbor down the hall had decorated my apartment door for my birthday as if we were in a high school locker. It was so cute. And
you could appreciate it because you were so well rested.
I sure did. And then we stayed awake for only 1 hour and then had a 2-hour nap to be better prepared for the party times.
It's a beautiful story.
It was, what a great way to enter. I just have to say, it was my favorite way to enter my 40s. What a time. Honestly, if there's one fairy tale wherein a princess earned a nap, it is Cinderella. Like that girl deserved so many naps, and I hate how sleep deprived she obviously is, and it sucks so much.
Well, however, she looks pretty fresh because I think she's like, what, 18? I don't know.
18. Is there a more beautiful young woman than Brandy? Like, the camera loves her so much.
Exactly.
Wow. Fresh of face. I love it. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin. And
you're listening to Pop This. And I'm really excited about today's episode, you guys.
We all fit the glass slipper, so we're here.
Yeah.
God. Can you imagine how weird, like, glass slipper? How awful that would be to wear?
What a nightmare shoe.
Yeah, that has got to be the worst shoe idea in the history of the world.
Can I just also say that I was impressed? I know I'm getting ahead of myself, or the story here, but I believe most people know this one. That at the very end, when they do put the glass slipper on her, she does take off a pair of slippers.
Yes. Yeah.
So
attention to detail is great in this film.
She really wears slippers all the time.
Truly. Yeah. The glass slipper, I was frustrated also by just now, not, and this is not a fault of the film, but a flaw I feel of the story originally. How does everything disappear except the glass slipper?
I know.
This is a real issue.
How does she live in a town full of presumably like dozens, if not hundreds of women where she has that specific foot that she only fits into that? Like, what kind of foot situation are we dealing with here?
I think it's that the shoe changes shape secretly. It's a magic shoe that can only fit her foot.
I've never heard that theory. Also,
really?
May I point out...
Maybe she has like 10 toes on one foot or something.
I think it would have been nicer for the fairy godmother to have shown up a little earlier than 11:15 to tell her...
That is a short... Yeah.
That she only gets to stay till midnight. So basically, work your magic in 45 minutes. Or really,
window.
40. You
40,
should have...
You should have
had... You should be able to jump in that carriage. But anyway...
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, obviously with, like, I always thought, and I haven't seen the animated Cinderella for a very long time, but, like, no one's even wearing glasses to disguise themselves from who they were when they met earlier that day.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real
He does not pay attention at all. Like,
it's a
honestly,
wild concept, though, that, like, she doesn't. Yeah, like, why don't they recognize each other? What's going on?
Her stepsisters and her stepmother don't recognize her.
No one but it's
like,
not
really, that is an indictment on Cinderella that no one will look at her.
I just thought that, like, they did, like, I thought it was a masked ball, but I guess it's not, actually. Now that I think about it,
it's not in the animated version. No, the only difference is this: apparently, people look very different when they put their hair up.
I mean,
because that's it. In the animated version, she puts her hair up.
Yeah, you're right.
And Brandy puts her hair up.
I think we can all agree that that's actually true. Never mind. The movie is the plot is flawless. What are you talking about? It's totally true. Whenever I wear my hair up, Andrea Gin is just like, I don't even know who this woman is.
So, who are you? Oh wait, you took your hair down. Oh. It's the
Sorry, I told the entire ballroom I didn't know you.
Yes. I was so confused when you had your hair up.
All this to say, like, whatever the flaws of the actual plot of Cinderella, can I just say, like, genuinely, this Cinderella is just, like, so enchanting, so sweet, so lovely. It made me laugh in ways that I was not anticipating. Some of the casting choices are truly inspired, like, in addition to the whole casting process. Mm-hmm. And I just was Like, genuinely delighted by almost everything about it outside of the sound mixing. I had some real critical thoughts about the sound mixing, but we can get to that. It's fine. Anyway,
Interesting.
All that
right.
said, that said, I would love to talk about why we're doing this. So, Disney like finally got off its bloated mouse carcass and added Cinderella.
Are you reading that from somewhere?
No, I ad-libbed
That's an editorializing.
That's an editorialization. I'm not saying that you two feel this way, but I'm like truly mad about how. Yeah, I'm truly mad about how long it took to add Cinderella to that streaming service. Like a year after its launch. Anyway, the 1997 made-for-TV musical was groundbreaking in many ways. Casting Brandy as the first Black person to play Cinderella, making her also Disney's very first Black princess, and a colorblind casting process that depicted multiracial families.
So this is a little bit of the background of this production of Cinderella, 1997 American musical fantasy television film produced by Walt Disney, directed by Robert Iscove, and written by Robert L. Friedman. It was based on the French fairy tale by Charles Perrault. The film is the second remake and third version of Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical, which originally aired on television in 1957. It was adapted from Oscar Hammerstein's book. Friedman modernized the script to appeal to a more contemporary audience by updating its themes, particularly rewriting its main character into a stronger heroine. Co-produced by Whitney Houston, who also appears as Cinderella's fairy godmother, the film stars Brandy in the titular role and features a racially diverse cast consisting of Jason Alexander, Whoopi Goldberg, Bernadette Peters, Vianne Cox, Natalie Desselle, Victor Garber, and Paulo Montalban.
So I had to double check from my grandma that Paulo Montalban was not related to Ricardo Montalban. They are not related. Just if
not a lot of Montalban, so it's a fair question.
It's totally, completely fair question, but they are not related. And so if any Fantasy Island fans out there were like, hey,
or Wrath of Khan,
either way, not the same family.
Not the same family.
Yeah.
But so your grandma has this information?
No, I looked it up for her because she was watching the film with us.
I thought you said you asked your grandma, and I was
no. Can you imagine? She just like pulls out her own Wikipedia facts about Ricardo Montalban.
Or she has like the keeper of Fantasy Island knowledge.
I mean, that would be incredible. We did watch a lot of it when we were younger, but or when I was little, but no, we don't have that anymore. Normally this would be the part where like AG might read a synopsis of Cinderella, but then Cinderella.
You know the story. And if you don't, what have you been doing?
If you don't, we judge you harshly.
Yeah.
So, quick question for both of you. Had you seen this Cinderella before?
No.
Me neither.
I was way too old to have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm sorry to say, as happy as I am to see it, as you mentioned, added to Disney Plus. If we had not been doing this evening, that's not where I would not have watched it.
Yeah, like I was 18 the year that this came out, and so I definitely it wouldn't have been like, I was too cool for Disney when I was 18. Like there's no way, But I'm so glad that we watched it now. Anyway, it made me really happy.
But it wasn't the same as 'cause they're doing a lot of those live TV musicals now, but this wasn't a live one. This is but it was made for TV.
Yeah, this isn't live. This was made for TV. This was like the relaunch of the Wonderful World of Disney, like that they relaunched it in the 90s, and this was like the big sort of the big piece to help them relaunch that whole concept. And so it was like a pretty big deal. There's just this is, I'll just give like a little bit of context. Like this is from a Shondaland oral history of Cinderella. But so it aired November 2nd, 1997, 23 million households and an estimated 60 million viewers. In just one night. So
people were excited.
That's incredible.
That's significant.
That is significant.
It's really significant. So, and yeah, we can read some of the other stuff after. But first, I just want to find out so what did you how did you guys feel about it? What did you like about it? What didn't work for you? What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I didn't think about it too much before I started watching it, and I was like, oh yeah, right. It's a musical. It's a musical version of Cinderella. And I don't enjoy musicals that much. Like, I only enjoy musicals where I know some of the numbers, like they're familiar. And so, already I was a little bit like, oh dear.
Here's where I am. Yeah.
But I can appreciate that I can appreciate if I was a child during that time and watched Cinderella. Like, this is probably the best Cinderella you could produce, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it has a lot going for it. The acting, it has an amazing cast. I like the rewrites that they did to the story. I mean, but I'm a little bit like, I don't enjoy musicals, or, I'm not a huge fan of the story of Cinderella, so I don't, or Walt Disney. So it wasn't really.
So there's a lot working against your enjoyment of this, but that you still found something to enjoy about it is kind of a miracle.
Yeah, exactly.
A testament to the show, perhaps.
I thought it was very pretty. It actually made me think of being in Disneyland, where there's so much color and the sets really look like walking through Disneyland. They were super beautiful. But yeah, the color, especially like the ball, all that purple, it was a lot.
Oh my God, so beautiful.
The costumes were great.
I also agree. The musical part, it was a lot of songs, like a lot. Like, we would have a little bit of dialogue, and then all of a sudden he, like, especially Chris, would all of a sudden, why? And I'd be, oh.
Like, yeah, I know. Me too.
So, like, am I the only one out of the three of us that likes musicals?
No, I love musicals. I don't think the songs were that great.
Oh no, I don't think the songs are that great either. I would say, like, I think you
could have just talked it out. Like, I really feel like there just could have been some talking it out stuff there.
So I like it when people, like, sing their feelings in musicals. I enjoy I mean, I don't enjoy, like, non-stop singing and no dialogue. Like, I find that a little bit hard to choke down, and that's, like, a few of them are like that. But I particularly love Paolo's voice so much and I love, obviously, like, I wanted more Whitney Houston singing, obviously. Like, who doesn't want more Whitney Houston singing?
She only, at the very last song, when they're getting married, got a couple of good Whitney notes into it.
I know.
Otherwise, I was just kind of like, what? Like, you look great, obviously.
Yeah.
But we didn't really get a lot of Whitney voice. And we didn't get a lot of Brandy voice.
I thought we got a lot of Brandy voice. I just, like,
but I meant, like, what I like, like, I mean, just,
Yeah. Like, I
got a lot of Jason Alexander singing unnecessarily.
Too much Jason Alexander. I love, I love.
He looked like a
Peters.
Munchkin, didn't he?
I know.
I kept thinking he's one of the Munchkins.
Yeah.
Wrong story.
I loved Bernadette Peters. I thought her song was great. And I just love her so much. Like,
but she's a Broadway gal, right? Like that.
She is. No,
yeah,
she is,
so
for
that,
sure. Like,
yeah.
Carlos and I went and saw her when she came to Vancouver a couple years ago to play with the VSO.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was really, like, such a fun night.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have not heard Whoopi Goldberg sing very much, and I thought she did a fine job. Like, she was great.
Oh, yeah.
And Victor Garber, I love his voice too. Like, I just think he's
I just have to say he's Canadian, because that's part of the code.
He is.
When you're Canadian, you have to mention the people who are Canadian.
So, yeah, like, pretty much, for those who haven't seen this, pretty much every single character has a song that they sing.
Even if it's not good or particularly moves the plot forward. It doesn't really matter. Everyone's going to sing.
But I like that. But and also, just, like, a shout out to, like, the casting of a fat woman, specifically a fat Black woman, Natalie Desselle as Minerva. So nice to see fat representation in something that's Disney related, where she is, I mean, she's like an evil stepsister, but she's not, like, so evil. So nice. So nice.
It was so sad, that she passed away last year.
That's so sad. How did I not know that? What happened? Tell me more.
She died of cancer last December.
Oh,
yeah,
that's so heartbreaking.
Oh, she's only 53.
Oh my God. That's so heartbreaking. Well, I'm so glad that like we got to see her in this, and I'm gonna try and find more of her work because I thought she was wonderful.
No, she was. I mean, it had all the right, it had kind of a slapstick feel. Everyone had very physical comedy, especially Jason Alexander, who just so kept falling and making giant gestures. And
my God, Whoopi Goldberg squeaks, or like when she does her like squeak talk, I laughed so hard. I don't know what it is about the way that she can reach a certain register and deliver a certain face with the squeaks of like sort of outrage. So funny.
It's so funny to see her in a role like that where it's so demure, right? That she's the queen and you expect her to like kind of shout at something, but no, she doesn't really, say anything. Everyone just seemed to be having a good time. I will say that. And if you're a kid, you probably weren't sitting with your parents going, the casting in this is really terrific, Mom. Thanks for suggesting this, but for them, they would just see like people really enjoying being in a movie, right? Like
totally. Like it looks like everyone's having a good time.
Yeah, like enjoying the story and being these kinds of cartoony type characters. And I understand what, like they said, they kind of modernized it. I always got the sense that it was a rough go for Cinderella and that she deserved more. But in the end, we are still watching a movie about a woman's life being made because she got married.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had that problem with Cinderella, and then like someone reframed it for me. I think I've talked about this a little bit in the past, or I've mentioned it before, but someone reframed it for me a long time ago, and I can't remember who they are, so I can't give them proper credit, but that Cinderella is primarily a story of like a woman who has been, experienced a significant amount of familial abuse and trauma, and like still has the capacity to believe in love as like something that's transformative and can like end up in a situation where she like, feels she deserves love as well. And that there is like a certain sort of power in that. So I think like I've made my peace with like the other optics of Cinderella as like that particular reading of it. I thought it's maybe generous, but it feels like
it's fair.
Nice flip. It feels like
fair.
A nice flip.
However, if Cinderella hadn't been extremely hot, then I don't know if we would be telling the same story.
I mean, that's true of all fairy tales,
sure.
Really. Like, is there ever like a, for lack of a better word, a supreme uggo that gets treated with any kind of fairness or niceness?
But I just
like,
always felt with Cinderella, there was like somebody was going to come along at some point and say, hey, who's the gal in the back there? Like,
I mean, but within the class differences of the society at the time, perhaps not. Like there were,
this is not a historical document. This is
understand
of the time. What time would that be when people make coaches out of pumpkins? What year? 1760?
You can tell there's like you can tell it's supposed to be a period piece. It's not like oh, it's set in
really
like
where there's like a
2021.
castle and the prince just has balls all the time.
Yeah,
I don't know
where
if
you
this
just
is
like you have to stay with your like horrible like sort of stepmother and stepsisters because your father promised you to them basically, and that you would keep the family together. Like that's not a terribly contemporary narrative. Like this feels more period piece to me. No? Am I alone in this?
I've never
also,
thought of it as a period piece.
How many balls do you attend? Like there's not a lot of royal
this
balls.
Is like Game of Thrones or something. But
but like I mean the part where they're giving themselves, I think, like the writer a lot of credit about sort of the modernization of a stronger heroine, but we get this very specific exchange that I do think is like pretty critical when, she says that Cinderella says, I doubt he has any idea how a girl should be treated. And the prince is like a princess, I suppose. And she says, no, like a person with kindness and respect. Like that actually being stated in a like Disney, like in the Disney princess factory is actually kind of extraordinary. Cause like that's a line that like I don't think exists in most of the other things outside of like Frozen now. Like Frozen talks a little bit about sort of like the agency of young women and girls. But like,
what period was Frozen set in? Just so
Frozen, another period piece. It's another period piece. Well, I mean, it's in the period of like elves and dwarves.
Yeah,
and
the period of elves and dwarves. Yeah,
and
I love that era.
Winter people. Yeah, like that's just.
Now is the winter people of our discontent.
Exactly. No, I think
I found it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, the other notable thing about this, of course, is the colorblind casting, and I found it interesting because we were just talking about Bridgerton a few.
Yeah, I
weeks
thought that.
ago,
I was thinking about that
and
too.
we were just like, oh, like how novel, colorblind cast for Bridgerton, and it seems like something that they were just doing, but then you watch the Cinderella and you're like, oh no, they did this in 1997 too.
Yes.
Yeah, and they've done it on like more like I would say you'd look for that for like in science fiction, like Star Trek and things like that always. But yeah, I mean, and gosh, you want to just go back in time going, just remember this because they're not going to do it again for a long time, and there's going to be no good reason for it.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
and
thing,
you can imagine just what an influence Brandy must have had on a generation of kids watching this movie, that she was a black Cinderella, a black princess, and that was kind of normalized in 1997. Like, you can see why it had an impression, and so many people who were children in 1997 just love this movie and have like tons of nostalgia for this movie.
Well, it's extremely sweet and pretty and fun, and there's like nothing wrong with it. It's still just Cinderella. I mean,
but I think like the representation, I don't know that it is just Cinderella when it's a Cinderella that no one had really seen before. Like I think like I understand like yes, it's just Cinderella, but like when you have been absent from fairy tales in any kind of representative way, like I think those fairy tales take on a much more significance when you have this opportunity to see yourself in them. And like one of the things I thought that was so interesting, Deborah Martin Chase, our favorite executive now in Hollywood, who brought us The Equalizer that we talked about last week. She was one of the executive producers on Cinderella, and Whitney Houston was also an executive producer. And anyway, so Deborah Martin Chase, she's like quoted in the Shondaland oral history, and I thought this was really interesting because they were getting a lot of pushback from certain Disney executives about the colorblind casting. And so this is her quote: "There was this big chunk of the casting process where I just wasn't sleeping. One night we were having another late night session at WME, and I walked outside and burst into tears. Nicole's assistant came out to me to see if I was okay and said, 'If this were easy, it would have been done before.' Those were the right words at the right time to snap me out of it. I said, okay, this is what it feels like to be making history." And I think that's really that's a really powerful sort of thing to think about, like how like there was so much pushback. They wanted they're like, well, if you have a black fairy godmother in Whitney Houston, we want to have a white Jewel instead of Brandy as Cinderella. And like just this this idea of like you can't have two black women leads in a, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, because like even in Bridgerton, like the central character, the female Bridgerton, I can't remember her name.
No, female Bridgerton is actually her name. That's Daphne.
So like a thin, beautiful white girl, right? Yep. Like they didn't sort of cast that one colorblind. It still had to be centered around a white girl.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the entire Bridgerton family had to be white because that like colorblind casting wouldn't extend to sort of the possibility of a multiracial family, and I think that Cinderella gives us this real gift that like it's nice to see sort of like and it's completely normal to see like multiracial families. And I just the idea that this is like almost 25 years old and we're still not seeing that kind of representation in a lot of television or movies. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and when you put it on, if you put it on Disney Plus, though, people are just going to watch it. And I'll bet you some people won't even know they'll know it was 97 because Whitney Houston is not live anymore.
Yes.
As well. But for the most part, you could just watch that and think it was new.
Yeah, it feels
except
timeless.
For the special effects are a little dated.
What do you mean?
I will say that.
Believed in that pumpkin. And when those mice changed into men, I was like, oh, this is the meaning of that short story. No, I'm kidding.
Were they keeping mice in a cage?
And then some were just in the garden?
Yeah, there was a real weird collection of mice.
And you know, magic in movies is always interesting because some magic can just come out of nowhere. But she needed actual things to turn into things.
Yes.
But
plus,
whatever.
She's 600 years old. Like, you'd think that, like, they would just let the magic... But, I mean, you know, whatever. I like it when there's,
So if she had, like, a different kind of decorative gourd, that carriage would have been very... Like a squash or like a butternut squash. Could have been a ghost
pumpkin or a butternut squash. Like,
it could have been anything. A very, very different pumpkin. And I presume if there had been only dogs, it would have been a very different... Oh, didn't the dog in the animated feature become, like, the coachman or something?
I think he is the coachman, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really remember, but
I don't even know what a coachman is or a footman. Actually,
but in those times, why would a family be keeping?
I'm kidding.
Be keeping mice in a cage in their house?
Well, ask our historian.
Yeah, it was just like a traditional house gift.
Mary Beard here.
A traditional house gift was when someone came over, you handed them a white mouse.
In a cage.
No, you took it out of the cage and and it would just become its pocket mouse. Like that's every person had a pocket mouse. Oh. That's actually like a Disney thing. They just don't tell you about that. But as soon as you go into the park, you get a pocket mouse. It's very awkward, but they got to keep the cats fed. So the other thing I just wanted to to think about, like, I know that again to think about sort of like what. So a lot of the executive producers of Cinderella had this vision and they were all aligned with this vision. But there was like these little sort of constant slights and these sort of like certain people were providing a lot of constant pushback to the just like the colorblind casting. And I think also you can see this pushback to the people who were involved. And I thought about this with regards to Shonda. And Shonda, our dear friend Shonda, who we only refer to by first name now, Shonda Rhimes.
Does she even, like, she be Shondi? Because I feel like we're just getting to know her so well now.
Oh, just like Sean. So, but like in her decision to leave Disney for a deal at Netflix after the blow up over the park pass to Disneyland, I thought about it a lot because there is, from the oral history, there is this detail that at the end of the shoot, the executive producers didn't have any more money to pay for extras and other costs. Disney refused to give them any more money, so Whoopi Goldberg donated her daily rate just to make sure everyone could get paid and get the shot. And then the executive producers paid the rest of the money out of their own pockets. And I know that that can happen with like financing in films and stuff.
Yeah.
But like consider that the executive producers are like, so at least, are two black women, and then there's, I think, two white guys, but 3 black women had to pay out of pocket to get this movie made with the vision intact of what they had,
come on, Disney's not a big company with a lot of money.
Yeah, fair point.
That's a lot of pressure. I
just am like, so, and then couple that with the fact that they didn't put it on the Disney streaming app in the first place. Like, anyway, obviously there's lots of problems with Disney and that's like historically well documented and whatnot. I just think it's like really critical to think about what, like, this Cinderella is so groundbreaking. It's so ahead of its time, even though it's honestly, it's not ahead of its time. It should be what the times had reflected already, but that they still had to like butt up against all of these different things. Mm-hmm. And just to execute this vision that, like, you know, it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard.
Agreed.
You nailed it. It shouldn't be this hard.
It shouldn't be this. That's the other name for this podcast. I think pretty much every episode ends. It shouldn't be this hard. It's a movie with women. It shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah, I just the other thing that was hard in this movie, which I thought was like interesting, nobody wanted to play the evil stepmother. And again, this is a quote from the Shondaland piece, and Deborah Martin Chase said, end quote. And this has a small swear, so I'm just going to give you a heads up. I cannot emphasize enough what a bitch it was to cast this role. No white actress wanted to be seen as being mean to the Black Cinderella. Bette Midler was their first choice, and others declined. Bernadette Peters jumped at it, and she is quoted in the oral history as saying it never even crossed her mind. Which, I mean, make of that whatever you will. But I'm just so fascinated by this, like the optics of it is, instead of seeing what an opportunity it is to be part of something that's like pretty groundbreaking, to just sort of like only see the possible negative depiction of yourself playing this character. But like, Bernadette Peters did such a great job.
Mm-hmm, it is so fascinating, and it makes me wonder, how, like, when actors are considering roles and stuff, like, how much does that factor in? Like, this is not a person I want to be, a character I want to be associated with, so I'm not going to go for this
They did
role.
a sketch like that on Saturday Night Live, where it was people auditioning to be in 12 Years a Slave.
Oh my God.
And they were given the dialogue, and they were, I don't know if I would say that. And they're like, well, you're playing a slave owner. And nobody wanted to do it at all.
I can see that being maybe like a little harder to sort of sit with. The evil stepmother in Cinderella.
Yeah. Well,
Again, I'm the only one who thinks this is a period piece. It's otherwise a fantasy.
But I don't know, like, how was it marked? Like I mean, it's curious. It's
so curious. Bernadette Peters is such an interesting person to me, because the other like, sort of in my mind, famous bad woman she has played in movies and musicals is in Annie.
I was just gonna say that.
She plays like the evil wife in Annie, and she's great in that too. And I just like, and I like it when she ends up playing kind of evil, because her voice is so distinctive, and it can sound very angelic,
like a baby.
Cutesy. Angelic, cutesy, innocent. But like, that makes it so much more
and her in The Good Fight too.
Oh yeah, but it makes it so much more richly unnerving when she's kind of like evil. So I'm really glad Bette Midler decided not to, actually, because I think Bernadette Peters did a great job.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it would have been a great role for Bette Midler too.
Oh,
I could see Bette Midler kind of the way she played it in Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Also, just the fact that like Whitney Houston was originally supposed to play Cinderella, but that like the project got like delayed for so long.
But I don't.
Like 20 years?
Yeah, like how old was she?
I'm sorry, but
when she thought that she could do it, because I mean,
she was already at the outer edges of age limit.
It's like there must be quite an age gap between her and Brandy.
There was, yes. But I just love the fact that like she recognized herself that she did not want to play Cinderella. And
that's literally like watching Schitt's Creek and Moira finding out that they don't want her to play Cinderella, and she's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what?
No, Whitney knew, so that's great. And like Whitney brought a lot of, I think, like integrity and interest to this film, and like, she was like one of the powerhouses, and the reason it got made the way it did. But like, when she like hand selected Brandy, and it's so nice in the oral history to have Brandy reflect on what it was like to get a call personally from Whitney Houston.
Oh my!
She was like 18 years old.
Yeah.
She's she's at sort of like this peak young prime, like a pop star. Like it's just so lovely to like have her sort of like think back on that and like what that was like for her. And she has this like really cute anecdote about she put Whitney Houston on hold so that she could like run around her house and scream, because she actually happened to answer the phone like at her house when Whitney called. And like, I don't know, it's so sweet and it's so nice. And every time there was like just even like little scenes together to watch them sort of interact with each other, it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like this potential, like, you're looking for mentors in the industry, and the industry is so, exploitative and so extractive, and like we've been talking a lot. Like I haven't seen the Britney Spears documentary yet, but like everyone's talking about it, and everyone's talking about what it is. Tavi Gevinson's essay, which is, I'm gonna recommend it at the end. Just sorry to spoiler alert, but like her essay about, you know, sort of the idea that young celebrity women have agency is kind of a lie. And she shares a lot of her own perspectives on that as well. But just like, you know, you're looking for mentors who will take care of you and take you under their wing a little bit. And like, even just Whitney casting Brandy in this and selecting her and saying, this is the person that we need, is just like such a, I don't know, like such a like important act, I think, for like a young person with someone who is so iconic as Whitney Houston was at the time.
Oh gosh,
and
yeah,
obviously is. But
and Whitney did a great job.
Oh, she's so good. I wanted so much more of her.
It's a thankless role.
I know.
I mean, you know, a little bit of magic here, a little bit of magic there. In fact, I think they kind of put a little bit more of her than was in the other one.
Yeah, that's true. But I really did want more of her. Like, couldn't she have just had like, I don't know, some kind of like outtake song where she, oh, I don't know, I just wanted more.
Couldn't you just got rid of the family and just like gave her the house or something?
I do want to say, like,
exactly. They could have done a more dramatic rewrite where she doesn't go to the ball at all. She gets made into like, you know, a person with agency who maybe has her own home somewhere else.
She starts her own cleaning company. She becomes a multimillionaire.
Independent landowner. Yeah.
She buys that house. She kicks those lousy people out, or better yet, turns them into mice. I don't know.
Well, the other thing that like the whole fairy godmother thing, and one of the things that I thought was kind of like a lie of the script, which again, I understand this is not factual. However, like fairy godmother keeps telling her, it's up to you the whole time. It's all you. You can do everything. But like, girl needed a dress.
Yeah, and a carriage.
She needed to get to the ball. I mean, does she need a carriage? No, she probably just could have rode a horse. But like, still, like, you need a dress. Like, at the very least, she did need a dress.
Well, didn't she in the other Cinderella? They make her a dress, right? Because she's gonna go, and then the sisters tear it apart. She's gonna go to the ball, right?
And the animals like help make her a new dress.
Yeah, like the little birds.
Yeah, but I just thought it was like such an interesting sort of like. It's kind of like it's almost gaslighting for like a fairy godmother to just be like, yeah, the power was within you all the time, and she's like, I can't manifest a dress, I just can't. Like,
but the power was in you all the time. Maybe she did. Was it like all a dream? But then the glass slipper looked very real.
Maybe it was all a hallucination.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a lot of vivid hallucinations. No, I'm kidding.
Maybe it was a modernized to be like she was like microdosing or something like that, and to get like you would need something to get you through a day like that, you know, a life.
You
like
really
that,
would.
Right? Yeah.
The other thing that I love, I mean, I don't want them, like, I understand that this production couldn't go like as dark as sort of like some of the original source material for Cinderella, but like the version of Cinderella wherein the stepsisters like are basically like cutting off their own toes to fit their feet inside the glass slippers. That's always been to me a pretty like cool detail. Even though we saw that terrible play that had that person like have to cut off their own toes to like, anyway, it was just, I always thought that was a really interesting detail. It's dark, but I've always liked the darkness of fairy tales.
Yes, you're on the dark side there on that. But, you know, as a historian, you know that these times were very dark, right? And the class system, I mean, right?
Truly, honestly, actually, the class system is just horrendous.
Like, thank goodness we had you here to fact check all this stuff for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we joke, but did I not provide a service? Come on.
You put it into context for me, so thank you.
Thank you. So I know for me that this movie pops. How about you guys?
Well, I mean, it's what it is. If you're looking for a Disney musical, sure, it pops. Would I have sat down to watch it? No. But, you know, if you're looking for a Disney musical, yes, pop. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Lisa. I can see how it's very meaningful to you if you saw it as a kid and it had you know, an influence on, how you saw fairy tales and how you saw Disney. And how like I can see how people would love rewatching it and are happy to see it on Disney. But yeah, it's a pop if you really love musicals and you just really deeply feel like watching a fairy tale.
Yes.
Okay, well,
or a historical period piece, whichever you want to think of it
as.
For
me, this being a deeply historical and accurate period piece, it's one of my favorite period pieces. No, my favorite Disney is actually like Alice in Wonderland. And Cinderella for me has never been like a story that I've that deeply connected to. But this is, I think this is the best version of Cinderella I've ever seen. And I particularly...
Not Pretty Woman?
I mean, that's a different kind of rewrite and a different story of a stronger heroine, I guess. Yeah, I think like I really love the casting. I love a lot of the intention behind all of it. I think it is so groundbreaking, and I don't like the sound mixing. I think the sound mixing is quite terrible, and it drowns out Brandy a lot. It doesn't do her any favors. She has a stronger voice than that, and I would love to see that showcased like a little bit more substantially. But I do think that like it's got a lot of momentum. It never really lags, and there's enough little weird surprises and like weird moments. My two favorite jokes actually were when oh my god, the Minerva, my favorite my favorite stepsister, screams, "I want a chance at him." I just loved that so much. She's like talking with the prince, and she just like wants to get at him, and I thought that was very funny, and the performance was so perfect for that. And then when Bernadette Peters is trying to like sort of like maybe just like manipulate Jason Alexander's character, and she says, and she like touches his hair, and she's like, "Oh, this full head of skin," realizing he's bald. I laughed so hard for so long that it's, oh my god, it really, I don't know why that joke really landed for me. But yeah, there were some really great moments that I just really...
So you're saying
loved.
a big pop.
I know, sorry.
You're saying you like this.
I do like it, and yes. And I have no caveats to that. I like it a lot. So we love to leave our episodes on something we recommend. Lisa, do you want to go first?
Sure. I don't know what I'm doing there. I was doing some arm movements. So I have only watched 2 episodes of this show, but everyone talks about it all the time. Call My Agent. Has anyone heard of this on Netflix? It is a French comedy.
Yeah.
About they represent actors, like the talent agency. So apparently in French, it's called 10%.
The standard amount the agent
10%,
gets.
yeah. But we call it Call My Agent, ! But has all kinds of actors playing themselves on the show, which is super, super fun. So like, I'm looking at this list here, but you get actual, like Juliette Binoche is on this, and Charlotte Gainsborough, and Isabelle Huppert, Beatrice Dahl. They're all playing who they, kind of variations on themselves. Very, very funny. I think everyone's probably gone through everything else on Netflix, and now you have Call My Agent.
Awesome. Thank you. AG, what about you?
I'm going to recommend a Netflix thing as well. I watched a movie called White Tiger the other day, and I thought it was very good. Yeah, Priyanka Chopra Jonas. She has
rolls
Jonas
off the tongue
in her name now.
Very, very important.
But it's a kind of like it's pretty dark. And it's like a dark comedy kind of. like in the same kind of way that Parasite is, I would say. And it's about this guy kind of narrating his story about how he was his rags to riches story. And it talks about like, the class systems in India. And he starts off as being a kind of like a really poor person and goes into becoming a servant for this really rich family. And then just how he becomes this rich business owner himself. And it's I would say like thematically, it's very much like a parasite type of story. And I didn't know what to expect when I was watching it, but yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot for ever since I watched it, because you do learn a lot about, like, you see India and you learn about their,
what time is it set in now?
Like then.
Or
yeah, it's not a period piece.
No, okay.
It's
I don't know what.
It's based on a novel that was written in 2008.
Oh, okay.
So.
Not in the time of the elves.
No.
Or the winter people.
Or the winter people.
Awesome. Thank you. That sounds great. As I mentioned, I'm going to recommend an essay that's in The Cut, and it's called Britney Spears Was Never in Control. And the sub-headline, Why Did I Ever Believe a Teen Girl Could Hold All the Power? And it's by Tavi Gevinson, who is a writer and ran Rookie for a long time, actor, fashion sort of icon, and is, all of 25 years old. And it's a very smart, very personal piece with all kinds of content warnings around sexual assault and predatory behavior and stuff like that. And it really explores the commodification of, young women, and even in holdings and the abuse of young women, and particularly the sort of power structures that wherein we grant all kinds of, assumed power and privilege to youth, but it's within a structure of the commodification of that youth. And so it's typically anyone other than the young women who are benefiting from that particular youth. I mean, there's some benefits, but they're not usually the ones actually holding the power. So it's really interesting. I haven't seen the Britney Spears doc because it's not airing in Canada.
On Sunday, it'll be on Crave.
Oh, good. Finally. That's great. Because I really want to watch it. And I also think it's there've been some counter narratives to sort of challenge aspects of what come out of that documentary as well. And this is one of those essays that sort of takes the sort of a lot of the takeaways from the documentary have been like Britney was in control all the time, and Tavi's like, actually no, like she wasn't. And I think she makes a lot of really good points. So anyway, really powerful essay. It's long, it's good, it's important, and I highly recommend it.
Bingo bango.
I
don't know where that came from.
I love it. It's great. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. You can and really like just it's what a ride this Cinderella episode has been with all of us. I haven't even been drinking. I'm just gonna say that. Like that's I don't even. It's the exhaustion. It's the naps. The lack of naps today kind of I think infiltrated my brain. But I stand by every single word we said.
As one of the winter people, you
as a just a really one of the card carrying winter people, like you can hang with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You could rate and review us, and
especially this episode.
This episode is obviously 6 stars, not even 5.
Yeah.
And so I just want you all to like
for historical accuracy.
For historical accuracy, I'd like you to take a picture of that 6th star and then email it to us to prove that you did it. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
Thank you so much. And as always, Andrea Gin, thank you for being our producer and co-host here.
And winter person.
And winter person. Fellow winter person. Yes.
Oh, fellow Winto. That's what we are. We're the Wintos.
Well, that's our last name. We're the winter people. We're the Wintos of the winter people. Hello, Mrs. Winto.
Oh, God. Well,
The winter. Or else maybe I'm doing my Cockney
Existing
accent.
in the age of
The
Cinderella.
winter people.
oh, you can't delete any of this, AG. This all stays. This is gold. Delete any of the other smart points we made. This is gold. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.